A wonderful morning to everyone who has joined today. From ManageEngine family, we would like to extend our warm welcome and sincere thanks to all our customers, partners, and users who are interested in our solutions. Endpoint management and security is one of the main focus areas of ManageEngine. Let me introduce myself. My name is Tanya, and I'm a product specialist with ManageEngine. I take care of endpoint management products, including Desktop Central. I'm a seasoned technical support engineer assisting customers in their implementation, consultation, and troubleshooting in case of challenges. In today's webinar, we will focus on endpoint management solutions, which has different portfolios under management and security. During today's session, we will be discussing Desktop Central Suite, which has management and security capabilities. So many things have changed during the course of last 2 months. We find ourselves struggling to cope with coronavirus pandemic that is wreaking havoc across the globe. As an organization, we have done our bit by completely adopting remote work. But as individuals, we need to contribute to stop the spread as well. Isolate yourself if you have the symptoms, and please follow the personal hygiene. As I said earlier, our organization has completely adopted remote work culture, as many organizations around the world. This can prove to be quite challenging for an IT admin who now have to consider various factors before he initiate an application deployment. Let's take an example based on the current scenario to understand things better. So we have John and his team who is responsible to manage 10,000 endpoints across the globe. He has his central server in Dallas and multiple remote sites where the endpoints are communicating via distribution server, and Sydney have roaming users who are directly communicating to Desktop Central. Since work from home is enforced, you need to manage the same users who are now working from home via VPN or a direct internet. Let's see how he manages his network and accomplish the task given to him on the upcoming slides. Once again, welcome to Desktop Central training, focusing on how to tune your Desktop Central to adapt work from home scenarios with respect to software deployment. Let's look at the schedule for today. We are on week 2, which is software deployment. This is one of the modules of endpoint management and security suite. We had patch management last week, and we are currently running on week 2 training. In case, if you have missed our last training schedule, you can always view them on the link that is shown at the bottom of the screen. If you are interested in the upcoming training, please use the same link to register yourself. Now let's look at software deployment, the topic for today. Let me quickly help you with the agenda. We will have an overview of Desktop Central first. Followed by that, let me help you with creating a report of machines where the essential work from home applications are not installed. And let's see how to install those applications via template. And we can have a look at the installation of a commercial application as well using the manual method of package creation. Also, how to help the end users to install software themselves using the self-service portal feature of Desktop Central. Then we will be having a look at the architecture behind how Desktop Central works. Followed by that, we will share with you a few real-time scenarios and solutions with respect to software deployment. And let's wind up the webinar with the frequently asked questions regarding software deployment. If you come across any question during the training session, please feel free to chat using the chat window. I have an expert panel with me who are ready to answer all your questions. Now let's start with the overview. So what is Desktop Central? Desktop Central is an endpoint management solution that ensures all your endpoints are secure and enables the users to use them effectively for business. A popular research analyst called Forrester defines UEM as follows: products that provides a centralized policy engine for managing and securing employee laptops and mobile devices from a single console. In unified endpoint management, you can manage endpoints in a traditional IT management fashion. This includes patch management, application management, configuration deployment, OS deployment, tools for troubleshooting, and the other day-to-day management activities. Similarly, the endpoints can also be managed with modern management. All the modern management operating systems supports modern management. It supports features like geo-tracking, geo-fencing, managing store applications, profile distribution to enforce restriction, operating system reset, and recovery. Can you guess the popular operating system when I say modern operating system? Yes, Windows 10 is a classic example in which we can manage both traditional and modern management. Desktop Central can manage both the worlds, traditional and modern, from a single management console. These are the features that you can leverage when you're using Desktop Central as a unified endpoint management solution. We have patch management, which takes care of operating system and third-party application patching. We have application management, asset management, configurations as well. In fact, if you're following our training schedule, we will talk about these topics in our upcoming sequence. You can manage other functionalities, including the mobile device management for iOS, Android, Windows, and Chromebooks. Then we have modern management, which is for Windows and Mac. You can perform things like geo-tracking, complete or corporate wipe. You can put them on kiosk mode. You can distribute the store apps and manage profile distributions to Windows and Mac laptops via modern management. Then we have OS deployment, which is a hardware-independent deployment where you will be able to create a single master image and deploy it to multiple machines of different make and model. Now, these are the features that are offered within the Desktop Central suite. Hence, with Desktop Central as a unified endpoint management, you will be able to manage desktops, laptops, mobile devices and tablets, servers, point of sale devices, and browsers as well. And all these from a single management console. Desktop Central is recognized for Best Unified Endpoint Management Tool of 2019 as reviewed by our customers in Gartner Peer Insight Customer Choice Award. We are recognized for Client Management Tool Division in Magic Quadrant for second consecutive year. And we are recognized for both traditional and modern management. Now let's have a look at the components which are essential to run this application. So I have listed out the essential and the optional ones. Desktop Central Server is a central component that you will install. It provides with an interface to the management console. The agent is also an essential component. You need this to be installed on the machines that you want to manage with Desktop Central. There is another component called Notification Server. This is an interesting one. We'll talk about this component's use case when we get into the product. When we look at the optional components, we have Distribution Server, which serves as a repository for patches, software, and script that you have deployed to a machine on a remote site. We can create unique replication policies for each location as per the bandwidth requirement. Then we have Secure Gateway. This is useful if you are going to manage machines that are not a part of your local area network, or to manage the machines which are connecting over internet. It will be an essential add-on component during the work from home scenarios to manage all your roaming machines which are going to connect over internet. We also have Failover Server. In case if you want to have high availability, you can make use of this. This has to be separately licensed. And you can also use a language pack to list your web console in the preferred regional language. So the components are ready. Now we'll move into the operating systems which we support. So we support 3 operating systems for now: Windows, Mac, as well as Linux. So these are the list of supported operating system with their versions. Primarily, the application server runs on the Windows platform, but you can manage endpoints that have Windows, Mac, or Linux flavors by installing the agent to them. The functionalities might vary among the operating system. You can always reach our support team in case if you need any assistance with this. So you can reach us on Desktop Central-support at ManageEngine.com. So once the agent, that is the respective agent machines are ready, you need to go with the installation of the agent in order to manage. Since this is a client-server model, which means you need to have the agent installed in all your endpoint in order to manage them. So to facilitate that, we have 3 methods. First one is using the group policy startup script in your Active Directory. You can simply download the application setup from the console and create a GPO and enforce it to the endpoints which you want to manage. Then we have automatic agent installation directly from the web console. You can add multiple domains and choose the machines from those domains and push out the agents to them. So considering the workgroup setup, we also have scripts that you can use. So you can download the agent manually and execute it on an agent machine. It will be reporting back to the server automatically on successful installation. So our script will help you to achieve the deployment in bulk. So we will be talking about the agent installation in greater detail in our upcoming training schedules. So let's move on to the challenges. With respect to current work from home scenario, what will be the challenges faced by an enterprise when it comes to deployment of an application? I have listed few frequent cases we have encountered recently. The very first thing is every organization should make sure that all the business related applications are available for an end user. And also need to ensure that the end users are not installing any other prohibited application which can mess up their business apps. I will be helping you with how to handle these scenarios on the upcoming slides. Desktop Central have 8,000 plus predefined templates to create a software package for all three flavors of operating systems. So which makes the package creation part simpler. So we will be looking at the details of templates when we get into the product. Now, let's get familiarized with the architecture of software deployment in the Desktop Central. Using Desktop Central, software can be deployed to your local area network and wide area network. Most important thing when it comes to deploying a software is to create a package in first place. To store that package, Desktop Central offers two different repositories, which is Network Share and HTTP or HTTPS repository. If the storage method chosen is Network Share for deployment, then the client machines will reach the share location and execute the installable files from there. You need to ensure that the share should be accessible from all the client computers. The other one is HTTP repository, which is more appropriate for deploying software to wide area network. The package which you create by uploading the installable file from your local computers and the package which you create from a software template of Desktop Central is downloaded to this HTTP repository. These packages from HTTP repository will be downloaded to the client machines in local area network for deployment, and in wide area network, the distribution server component will download and it will distribute it to the WAN clients for the deployment. So why do we have two different repositories? Here is a comparison to explain that. Network Share is more suited for local area network, where there is no limit for the package size which you're going to deploy. Whereas using HTTP repository, you can deploy software to local area and wide area network. Up to 7 gig packages can be uploaded to HTTP repository. If you want to deploy a package more than 7 gig to a remote site, you can always reach our support team. We will be helping you with a workaround to achieve that. And Network Share requires setup and maintenance because it is easily vulnerable to threats if not maintained properly. Whereas HTTP repository doesn't require such maintenance. Now let's get into the web console to see how these repositories are configured. So this is the management console of Desktop Central. You need to go to software deployment and software repository. This is where we have our two repositories. By default, we will be providing a path which you can use it as a share. So you can proceed with saving it and you can proceed with the usage of that. If not, you have your existing share in your organization and you are maintaining the packages over there, then you may use your own share by updating the details. So when you update the share details, it is recommended to update the credential using which that share can be accessed so that the client machine can use this to access the share for deployment. And for HTTP repository, we have a default location which is configured within the server install directory. If you want to change the location to a different drive, yes, you can update your new location and you can make use of that. So this is how the repositories should be configured in first place. Now, let's have a look at John's current setup. All his users are working from home, where few users are connected via VPN and few of them are still communicating over internet directly via secure gateway, and the internet users include the remote office users as well, so who are now in work from home. Since he already configured secure gateway, the management of machines is seamless for him. This will ensure the communications happening between the internet user and Desktop Central is secure. If you want to know more details or the commercials about this particular secure gateway component, you can just put a word to our chat panel. They'll be helping you with this. Now, let's get into the task which is assigned to John and his team, and we'll have a look at how he is going to achieve those tasks. First task is to create a report of machines without business application. That is, creating a report to know which machines doesn't have the Microsoft Teams and the Office 365 so that he can proceed with the installations of that. So we'll get back to the product. In order to know which machines doesn't have that application installed, we can go to custom groups. So custom group is nothing but you can create groups of your managed endpoints on Desktop Central using this. So we offer 3 different types of custom groups: static, static unique, and dynamic. So you only have a minor difference between the static and static unique. Static unique, if you create a static unique group, a computer in one static unique cannot be present in another static unique. So will not allow to have same computers in 2 different static unique groups. This is because of the use case of that group. So we will be using the static unique group under user administration to define a scope to a technician. So to make sure the machines managed by the technicians had no issues with it. So we'll move back. And the static group is nothing but a normal grouping using which you can create a group of computers and users. Now, to achieve our case, we need to go to dynamic group, where we can create a criteria to get the details. So software name not equal to Microsoft Teams will help me with a report of machines where the Microsoft Teams is not installed. So I have already created a group for Microsoft Teams. So I could see all the machines where the Microsoft Teams is not installed. If I want to take this as a report, yes, I can do it. So I can just export it as a PDF, CSV, or an XLS format. And one more benefit of creating it as a group is you can target this group for the deployment of an application. So it makes easier. That is, you have a group to target and you have a report of the machine where it is not installed. And since it is dynamic, the group will be automatically updated once the machines are being installed with the applications. So this is how the report or the target is created by John and his team. So like I did for Microsoft Teams, you can create another group for Office 365 as well. So our next task is to deploy Microsoft Teams application using templates to specific group of computers. So we already have the group created. Now we need to look at how he's going to create a package and target it to that group. Go to software deployment. And whenever you are going to perform a software deployment, it is recommended to have a check of that application under the templates. As I mentioned, we have 8,000 plus application for all 3 flavors of operating systems. So most of your required applications and most of the frequent requests for the work from home scenario based applications have been updated to our templates. So you can have a first check over here. I'm searching for Teams and I have the Windows Teams available on the templates. So the template will have a complete detail of an application. That is the name, which version and what type of application it is, it's an exe or MSI, you can have the detail for which platform and from which location you're going to download that package is also mentioned. And for the ease of package deployment, we have also tested and updated the installation and uninstallation argument. So this will help you with a silent installation of the application on the end user machine. Okay, so we need to create the package first. I have already created a package. So let's go to the packages view, where you could find the Microsoft Teams package already listed. Now let's target it. Click on the install and install software. We want to deploy the package to users, you can go with the user configuration. Since we are going to deploy to all the computers on the network, let me select the computer configuration, which will take you to the configuration page where the package is already pre-filled. So let's give an appropriate name to have a track on the deployment later. And by default, this package will be installed using system user account. In case, if you have any application that requires an elevated privilege, that is impersonation, then you can go with the runners user and you can select the domain credential and then you may proceed with the installation. Then we have scheduler settings. So it's like, let's take you are going to deploy some other important task. That is, a patch deployment isn't pending. You don't want to go with the Teams deployment now. Not an issue. So you can create a configuration and you can set a start time for this particular configuration. So that even if you create a configuration now, the server will invoke the configuration only during the start time which you are going to mention. So the server has been intimated. How about the agents? So in this case, we have agents on different locations with different time zones, right? So in order to cover all the time zones and in order to educate the agents about the time of deployment, deployment policy will come into play. So let's have a look at what is a deployment policy and what are all the features that has. The very first thing is the scheduling. So when the deployment should happen. So which week of the month and which day of the week you want the deployment to be happen. You can specify it and during what time you want the deployment to be happen. You can specify it over here. Once the timing is specified, now when to initiate this deployment? During the startup or during the refresh cycle of agent. Speaking about refresh cycle, so I'll be explaining this in detail when we speak about the desktop central architecture. So we'll have a hold on that. So whatever comes first, startup or refresh cycle, within this window, the package will be deployed. And this timing works with the agent machine timing. Next, we have redeployment settings for Windows platform, which includes wake on LAN. So if you have the wake on LAN prerequisites already enabled on the BIOS and software level of the agent machine, then you may make use of this option. The second option which we have is download, patch, or software during subsequent refresh cycle. So which means our server initiated the deployment at early 8 a.m. But as per our schedule, the deployment will be starting at 12 a.m. But you don't have to wait until 12 a.m. for the packages to copy to the clients. If you enable this, then on the subsequent refresh cycle, the packages will be copied to the client machine, and when it reaches 12 p.m., the deployment will be immediately starting. Then we have user notification to notify about the deployment to an end user with your customized message. You also offer them an option to skip the deployment or just to show the progress. So if you want that to be a complete silent deployment, then you can opt not to choose the notification part. Finally, we have reboot policy over here, so which includes multiple options to do the reboot if an application requires a reboot post-installation. So as an admin, you can specify a schedule for the reboot, or you can give that privilege to the end user. So you can choose the postpone intervals and you can save the deployment policy so that the end user will be prompted with these time limits and they can choose the required time based on their work and they can go with the reboot function. The similar options will be available under the reboot shutdown section as well. Shutdown will include a reboot and shutdown option. So which means if it's a non-working hard deployment, once the reboot functionality is done, you can go for the shutdown as well. So you don't have to keep the machines awake until the next day. So this is about the deployment policy. You can create multiple deployment policy as per your requirement and you can associate it with the configuration. Now I have created a deployment policy for my Microsoft Teams deployment and I have selected it. Now moving on to the target section. So I'm going to choose all my sites because the machines where the installation is not done might be in all the remote sites. So once that is done, you can use a filter option where we have multiple filters available. Not only for a dynamic custom group, you can filter a single computer, an OU, or a group, or for a particular IP address range, for an operating systems, and even the machine type. So in here, we're going to target it to our Microsoft Teams group, which is already created. And when you deploy it, whenever a new machine comes into this remote office, then it will be automatically installed with this package. So what if after a month a machine is getting into it and into the group and it is automatically getting installed with the outdated version of application? There could be a new version of Microsoft Teams by that time. So in order to avoid such outdated application installation, we also have an option where you can set an expiry date to this configuration. So you can set an expiry date as a 1 or 2 months. So whatever machine comes in within that time period, it will be installed with the application. After that, the configuration will be expired. Then we have the execution settings, which is nothing but the retry option for the deployment. Let's take, for example, if a package installation is getting failed, and if there is a dependency for that package, and that a specific process has to be stopped before the installation or on startup, will ensure that the application get installed even before that particular dependent process starts. So by enabling this, we can ensure that the probability of getting the application installed is higher during the subsequent startup. So you can do a maximum of 10 retries during the startup and the refresh. Finally, we have the notification settings to notify about the deployment which you are going to perform. So in order to have the notification enabled, you need to make sure the mail server settings is configured from the admin. So once everything is set, you may go with an immediate deployment. So the deploy immediately will do an immediate deployment of the configuration. So this is where the notification server comes into play. So notification server is responsible for all the on-demand tasks which you are going to perform. And hitting on deploy will deploy the configuration during the 90 minutes refresh interval of the agent. So this is how the Microsoft Teams deployment is done by John and his team. Now let's move on to his next task, deploying a commercial application, that is Office 365 packages, to a specific department. So we have already created a dynamic custom group for the machines where the Office 365 is not installed. So we'll move back to the product and see how he's going to create a package for Office 365. As I mentioned, whatever application it is, either a commercial or a non-commercial application, your first check should be on the templates. So we'll have a check for Office 365. And yes, we have a template over here, not with the arguments, but with a document to explain the installation. Since it's a commercial application which is licensed, we'll provide you the details of how to do the deployment. So as per the document, you need to first download the deployment tool from the Microsoft site. So I have already downloaded the Office deployment tool here. So once the deployment is done, you need to extract the contents of the exe. So let's get into the command prompt. And we have already provided the arguments to extract the content. So we'll take up the detail, and you need to update this file path. So I have the deployment tool on the E drive of my machine. So you can update the drive path, and you can also update where the files should be extracted. So once the path is updated with a quiet command, if you hit on enter, the setup and the configuration files will be extracted from the deployment tool. So once that is done, the next step would be the customizing of the configuration.xml with the required components which you want to install with the Office 365 package, and with the product key, you can customize your configuration.xml file. So once you configure the XML file, you can download the entire package using the setup and the configuration XML. So we have the command line using which you can do that as well. So let's copy it, and we need to update the path of the setup file and the download command along with the path of the config file, and you need to call the configuration XML. So once that is done, the packages will be downloaded. So which includes the cap files and data files, including the setup. So the package is now ready for the deployment. So we have the package ready. We need to get into the product to see how you can create a package using the installable files which we have downloaded. So under packages, click on add packages, and for Windows, we are going to create it. So put up the name of the package which you're going to create, and it's an exe. So we support manual package creation for MSI and the exe type applications. So here we are going to create an exe application, and it is a commercial application. So if you're going to choose it from your share folder, then you can browse to the location and you can choose the data files from here. In case you're going to upload it from your local computer, then you need to make sure all the folders are selected, and you need to zip this folder without creating another folder. So select the files and compress it. So I have already compressed it over here. So when it deploys on a client end, it will automatically extract the contents and it will be performing the deployment. So once the package details are extracted, the arguments to deploy it is also available in the same file. So you can update your path. You need to update your repository path, and you can call the setup file along with configure file and the configuration XML. So if you're going to upload method, then the path is not required. So you can just call the configuration file and the XML file with the configure command. And this particular package has the arguments available. But when it comes to a manual package creation, the best practice which we recommend is to have a test of the argument which you're going to deploy. which you're going to update in the Desktop Central package, because the installation arguments are vendor specific. So there could be chances where it might go wrong. So just do an installation manually first on your machine. Once you ensure it is a success, then you can update the arguments with Desktop Central. We also have option to update the uninstallation argument for the packages, and under advanced settings, it includes a major important part, that is the exit code. So you might have experienced under some scenarios the deployment might be success, but you could see a failure message on Desktop Central. This is because of the exit code. So by default, all the application, most of the application will have 0 as exit code. In case if some application have a different exit code, then on successful installation, they will be returning that code. Whereas your package will be having the code as 0, which will not match and it will throw up an error. So have a check on exit code if you face that scenario. And most of the application will be completing the deployment within 2 hours. So by default, we will be setting the limitation for installation as 2 hours. In case if some deployment is taking more time, then please ensure the timing is increased. So apart from this, we have 2 useful options under the package creation, which is pre and post deployment activities. So let's take, you're going to deploy Office 365. Before that, you need to make sure is your system drive has enough space to take up this deployment. Yes, you can have a disk check from here and to ensure the enough space is available, and then it should proceed with installation. So you don't have to get into each machine to check these things. Also, post deployment, you can do certain changes as well. So if you want to create a separate shortcut with your own icon, or you want to copy some files, some customization file after the deployment, yes, you will be having the option to achieve that using the pre and post deployment activity. And that applies to the uninstallation as well. So once after updating all the required details, you may create the package. And one more thing to mention, the pre and post deployment activities is applicable to the packages which you create from template as well. So you can just modify the package and you can update the details if required. Now I have the Office 365 package created and I'm going to deploy it to all the computers which is required. So we need to name the config first. Once this is done, the package is added and we need to select the respective deployment policy. Yes, that is also done. And next we are going to select the target, that is where to deploy. So we have a dynamic custom group to deploy it. So this is a quite huge package which will be deployed Office 365. But let's consider that few work from home users who are connected over VPN might experience some slowness when it comes to copying or downloading of a quite big package. So you can opt those users out using the exclusion option. So you can set an IP range, you can set the IP range of your VPN users so that only the internet users with high bandwidth will be receiving this Office 365 packages. For these VPN users, you can deploy the package at the later time, or you can create it as a separate deployment and you can go with it, just to avoid the bandwidth constraints. So this is how the Office 365 deployment will be carried out by John and his team. So we'll move back. So next thing is the application control to restrict non-business application which is installed on the end user machine. So in order to answer this one, we have our brand new product, which is Application Control Plus, that comes as an add-on with Desktop Central. So this is the Application Control Plus add-on. So once the agent is installed on the machine, it will discover all the available application in your network. So very first job which you need to do is you need to group the application. Which one should be whitelisted and which one should be blacklisted. So you can go to create group, you can name the group, and you could see the applications are defined with respect to its vendor. So I can select the application by application, or you want to go with the entire vendor, yes, you can make a change and you can select it. Now all the application which fall under this vendor will be selected. So I have already created two groups with the whitelisted and blacklisted application. Now I need to enforce a policy of these application onto the machines which I'm going to manage. So you need to associate those groups of applications with the group of machines which you manage with Desktop Central. So I have a VPN group machines where I need to enforce only the whitelisted applications. So in this machine, only these applications will be allowed to run. So what if a new installation comes in apart from these 50 application which I have blacklisted and whitelisted? So in order to handle the new installations, we have two modes, audit and strict mode. So if it is an audit mode, the application will be listed on the gray listing view, and as an admin, you can decide whether to move it to blacklist or whitelist. Still, the end user will be able to use it. But when you go with a strict mode, whatever new installation they are going to install, the end user will not be able to use it until you decide that it is a whitelisted application. So all the new installation will be under the gray listed executable. You as an admin should decide where it should go. And along with this product, we also have one more option, which is privilege management. That is, the end user might not be having the admin privilege to run few applications. So there are few required applications that need the admin privilege. So you don't have to get into the end user machine every time to provide the admin privilege. So you can just select the application and you can create it. Now, whenever the end user execute it, it will be automatically getting executed as administrator, even though he is logged in as a normal user. So that is about the privilege management. And as I said, this is a brand new product. So if you want to have more insights or details or a separate demonstration on this, you can have a word with our chat team. They'll be helping you with more details on this particular product. So you can have it as a standalone and as an add-on with your existing Desktop Central as well. So we'll move back to the presentation. So these are the snapshots of the product which we have discussed. So our next case is John is receiving a lot of help desk tickets to install various business applications. How can this be minimized? So this can be minimized by the usage of a feature called self-service portal. So self-service portal, as the name says, it self-serve the purpose of end user. So you can either publish a package as a computer or as a user. So once you get into it, you will be listed with all the packages for Windows and Mac platform. It is currently supported for Windows and Mac. And to which machine the packages will be published is decided by the custom group. You can create a static, unique, or a dynamic custom group and you may target it. Once you pick the packages and click on publish, this will be updated on the client end. So as an end user, how can he view the details? So you can decide it by the self-service portal settings. So either as an agent tray, or you can create a shortcut icon on desktop or as in a start menu. So if you're going to create a shortcut icon, then we'll help you with the rebranding of icon and renaming the shortcut as well from here. So this will look something like this. So all the published applications are listed, and with a click of a button under the action, the application will be installed on the end user PC. And you could also see one more option called request. So the request is, so we'll move back to the self-service portal, and you have noticed two categories: without approval, and one is requires prior approval. So you will be getting these categorization if you have integrated Desktop Central with Service Desk Plus. So Service Desk Plus is a ticketing tool of ManageEngine. So once the integration is done, you will be able to see this categorization. And if you drop an application under requires approval, and if you publish it, then instead of install, you will be getting the request option. So if you hit on request, that will prompt a message box. So the end user can type in their requirement and they can send it as a request. Now this request will be taken up by Desktop Central and it is forwarded to Service Desk Plus, and it will be created as a ticket on Service Desk Plus. Now, when the assigned technician approves that request, it will be accepted by Desktop Central, and Desktop Central will immediately initiate an installation of that application on end user PC. In case if it is rejected, then you will be getting a rejected message on the self-service portal. So this is the approval workflow of self-service portal. And now let's have a look at the common error messages which you will come across when it comes to the deployment of a software. So the first one is the system cannot find the path specified or access denied. So this error will occur if you are deploying a package with network share. The agent might not have the access to take the share, or the privilege might have the issue. So that could cause these issues. So you may better switch back to HTTP repository to handle these cases. And messages related to no silent switch or invalid silent switch. So as I mentioned during the manual package creation, it is mandatory to have a check on the silent arguments even before you go with the deployment. So a quick tip to have a check on this is, so we have the setup file over here. So you can call the setup file, whatever setup file, and go with a question mark or a slash option. That will help you with the possible silent argument of that particular exe. So you can make use of this to get the exe details. And it is recommended to have tested manually before you go with the Desktop Central. So that will avoid these kind of errors. Now, let's have a look at the architecture of how a complete Desktop Central product works. Desktop Central is a client-server model application, and it is an on-premise solution. You can have the Desktop Central hosted in any one of the supported operating system which we saw earlier. And this architecture talks about how you can manage your local network. When it comes to wide area network, you can manage different remote location from one single management console. So they can connect either via internet or they can communicate via distribution server. And we can also have a secure gateway, the optional component, in order to secure the communication between the machines or the mobile devices which is communicating from internet to Desktop Central. So a secure gateway is a server that bridges the agent traffic to central server securely that connects over internet. When it comes to remote location, the distribution server component is used to throttle the bandwidth of data traffic between the central server and the remote location. We can choose to have the machines communicate either via distribution server or direct communication. And you will be also able to manage mobile devices using the secure gateway. And Desktop Central will also be integrated with Active Directory to fetch the AV objects and help you with the deployment of the agent and other deployment tasks. you can deploy patches, software targeting these AD groups or the organizational units. So this is how the architecture of Desktop Central works when it covers a wide area network. Even if you have a closed network, we can still use Desktop Central to manage your endpoints. Desktop Central is also available in AWS Marketplace and Azure. In case you are looking to host Desktop Central in any one of the cloud server, you can use Azure or AWS for now. We have tested in these two instances. We're also working towards offering Desktop Central as a cloud solution. Soon, Desktop Central will be available on Zoho Cloud. So soon you'll be able to get a beta version to test in your environment as well. And the 90 minutes refresh policy, which we saw on the deployment policy. So we'll have a discussion on this. So Desktop Central can scale from small as well as large network. And that's why we have this refresh policy, which will help you to manage all the range of networks. Every agent communication with Desktop Central in once in 90 minutes. Even if you have 90 machines, 900, or even 9,000 machines for that matter, the 90 minutes will be equally divided among them, and each machine will be given a specific time to talk with the server. Now, the server has the intelligence to assign a time for each client to talk to the server. So this avoids network congestion or downloads, which can actually eat up all your bandwidth. So I hope you remember the pre-deployment settings under the deployment policy, which we discussed. So it's about this. So that the 90 minutes refresh policy is designed in such a way that will split the load evenly and to not cause any damage to your network. So next we'll have a look at the ports, which is mandatory for Desktop Central to run. So Desktop Central runs on two primary ports, which is 8383 HTTPS and 8020, which is HTTP port. All the agents talk to the server using this port. And then we have the notification port 8027, which will be responsible for all the on-demand operations like path scan, asset scan, immediate deployments, etc. Apart from these two ports, there are other optional ports that you need to have to open on the server machine, and I have listed it below. And for more detail on the ports, you may visit the below mentioned URL that will give you more insight on the ports needed to be configured on Desktop Central. Okay, so far we have discussed the uses of software deployment and we had a couple of tasks as well. Now let's get into the scenarios section. So if you have any questions so far, you can put up to our chat team. They'll be ready to answer your questions. So our first scenario is there a way to base install of dependency app? I have an app that needs a database installed first. Yes. So let me show you. So under packages, I have an application which is iRetail that requires the dependency of SQLDB. So I'm selecting both the packages and I'm going to the configuration. Now, the packages will be installed based on the sequence which is added. So I need to have the SQLDB on the top, iRetail next. So it will first install the SQLDB and then followed by iRetail. So it's possible. Second scenario is I have a third-party application that does not support silent installation. How can I install it? Okay. In order to handle this scenario, we have an option within the same configuration. So if you go to Configure, Install or Uninstall options, you will be having Allow User to Interact with Installation and Installation Window option. So if this is checked, then when you invoke an installation, the end user will be prompted with a window and they can proceed with the deployment by providing the options on the end user view. Or if you have an AutoIt tool, or if you're well versed with an AutoIt tool, you can create a script using that, and you can add that script along with the package, which will also help you with the deployment of an application for which you don't know the silent argument. And the next thing is you can always reach out to the respective vendor. They might be having the respective arguments to do the installation silently. Third scenario is I have a set of application, including MS Office and CRM, deployed for my sales team. I want all new salespeople to have this application installed on their computer automatically. How can I do this? Okay, so it's like you have a baseline application and you want to install it to the users of a particular group whenever a new user comes in. So let's consider these are the set of baseline application, and my target would be on all the office, or I have a OU in my domain where I'll be adding the new users who are coming into the sales team. So I can target an OU or a group. Now I can deploy it. So in order to ensure whenever a new user comes in, this should be automatically installed, you need to go to configuration, and under configuration settings, please make sure this option is enabled. When a computer or a user is added to an OU or a group, apply the configuration during the next startup or during the refresh cycle. So if this is enabled, then whenever a new user is coming into the group or the OU, they will be automatically getting installed with the applications. And the configuration settings also includes the cleanup settings for configurations, which includes the software deployment configuration as well. So you don't have to pile up with the old configuration. You can set a cleanup from here. Scenario 4 is I tried to deploy a business app to a computer, but it failed. Is there a way to troubleshoot? Yes. So let's consider you're going to create a Skype package for deployment and it encounters multiple errors. So what you can do is when you upload the details and create a package, make sure this particular option is enabled. Enable login for troubleshooting. So once this is enabled, the next time when you encounter with a failure, then you will be provided with exclusive log file under the agent log folder, which will have a details of the deployment error that happened on the Skype installation. So you can have it referred, or you can pass on the logs to our support team. Will be helping you with the installation. Next scenario is when I create a package using the templates. What happens if a new version of application is released? So you don't have to worry if a new version of application is released if you're going to create a package from our templates, because we have auto update template option. So once you enable auto update template option, which is applicable for only the template package, so whatever software you add for this auto updation feature, whenever a new release is coming, Desktop Central will automatically create a new package. So whatever application listed, a package will be created and it will be listed under the packages view. For an administrator, all the old and new packages will be listed out. Whereas on the self-service portal, if that particular package is published to an end user, it will automatically remove the old one and update the new one. So in order to ensure the end user always have the updated version. Next scenario is, can we perform Windows 7 to 10 upgrade using software deployment? Yes, you can perform it. So as our drill, first check is on the templates. So it's about Windows 10 upgrade. So we have a document right here to perform the Windows 10 upgrade. So it initially shares the prerequisites of the upgrade. So make sure the target should have the prerequisites. Then you need to download the ISO file for Windows 10. Once the download is done, you need to extract the setup file from there to create a package. So like we created a package for Office 365, you can create a package for the Windows 10 as well. So when you go with the Windows 10 deployment, if you're going to upgrade it with same version, that is professional to a professional, enterprise to an enterprise, then it is a complete in place upgrade. So if the version differs, if your Windows 7 is professional and your Windows 10 is enterprise, then that will be a cleanup upgrade by Desktop Central because the product allows in that manner. We also have the arguments using which you can proceed with the deployment. You may have it referred and you can go with the deployment. If you encountered any issue, not to worry, the error codes and the resolution to resolve that is also provided on the same document. So you may have these things referred. Okay, now we are almost at the end of our session. So let's quickly go through the frequently asked questions for Desktop Central. What if I don't have a self-service portal link on the menu? How can I find it? So if your setup doesn't have a self-service portal option, then it means you are running a professional edition of Desktop Central. So self-service portal feature is available only for Enterprise and UEM edition. Just click on the license tab and check which type of license you are using. This will answer your question. Next, how do you monitor the status of deployment? Like how many workstations have installed versus how many remaining or failed. Under software deployment, you have an option called View Configuration. So this is where all the created configuration will be listed. You can click on the configuration and that will help you with which user did the configuration and when he created it, when he last modified it, what type of configuration it is, and to which machine it is deployed as well. And on the configuration detail, you'll be able to see which package has been deployed onto the machine, and the execution status will let you know the status, success or a failure. If it's a failure, you can see the reason for failure under the remarks. If you target multiple machines, then yes, all the machine status will be updated. And the best part here is with all the modules of Desktop Central, you will be having an export icon using which you can export the complete details of Desktop Central. And if you want to use the same configuration, but without disturbing this configuration, you want to use it for a different target, then you can save it as a target, save it as a separate configuration without the target. So you can make use of it for a new set of machine. Or you want to keep it safe for a later use, then you can save it as a template option. So once you save this as a template, you will be able to see it under the configuration, templates, where you have the user-defined template option. So I have my template over here. I can just click on Create Configuration to proceed with my new set of targets. So you don't have to search for it again or you don't have to recreate it again. Third question is if you are using a secure gateway server in our setup, do the external client still need to connect to HTTP portal for software, or can they go directly to network share via secure gateway? So to answer this, the best practice would be to use the HTTP portal because exposing your network share over internet would be vulnerable to your network. So for roaming machine, if you're going for a deployment, even if you have a secure gateway, we'll recommend you to go with the HTTP portal option. So if I want my software packages to be replicated to a remote office, how do I achieve it? So to make the things replicated in best way, you may select. When you deploy the configuration, please make sure the top level target which you chose is the required remote office. And then you may filter and add your sub targets, because if you chose the top level target as a domain, then all the remote office which falls under that domain will be replicated with the packages. Few remote office might not be having the target, but still it gets replicated because the top level target is domain. So please make sure you choose only the respective remote office. Fifth one is when multiple software are deployed in a sequence. If the first package fails, does it attempt to continue? How is the notification sent back? So if the first package fails, then the configuration will be called off. And if you want to get notified about this, you may enable the notification settings. And in order to do that, yes, you need to enable the mail server settings as well in order to get the email when it is failed. Sixth one is if you configure a schedule and the computer is not online at that time of schedule, will it be in queue to install when the computer comes online? So the deployment here doesn't work with the queue process, it works with the schedule window. So if the schedule has been done for today morning 8 to 10 and the machine is not online, then the configuration will be deployed on the next schedule. That is the next day 8 to 10, which is configured. So it goes by the schedule. Seventh question, we have 11 technician license on Service Desk Plus, and we have only one technician license on Desktop Central. Is it possible to set the self-service portal with only one technician license on Desktop Central? Yes, because in order to integrate Desktop Central, only the license, that is common technicians, are required, and one common technician would be enough to complete the integration. Post-integration, that doesn't require the extra license counts. And here we have come to the end of today's training. Hope this training session was useful. So please do share your feedback and rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 means the best. So this is our next training schedule for asset management, which will be conducted on April 22nd. Please stay tuned to get more details on the asset management. And if you like a training, please do spread a word on the social media platforms. And if you would like to have a personalized demo with one of our product expert online one-to-one demonstration, you may use the below mentioned URL to register yourself, or you can just leave your email details with our chat panel. They will be helping you with scheduling the demonstration for the entire product. And thank you so much once again. Have a nice day and stay safe.